Welcome back to part 2 of today's episode. So, in the first section, we've already unpacked mom's guilt. And now, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at what do we do once we unpacked it, which means in section 2, what we're going to do is we're going to have the emotional toolkit for busy moms. And in today's episode, we're going to cover 9 such tools that is going to be super useful for you to handle the emotions in order to become a better and stronger mother, hopefully. Now, the first thing that you got to do is we will start with recognizing and accepting your feelings. All right. For most moms, what I've noticed is they do not have that pause button. They don't have that button to just sit down and accept this is what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling guilty, or I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling frustrated. They don't have this time because they are constantly on the go. They wake up, they get the child ready, they need to get ready, they need to make sure they are on point, the child is on point, books are packed, breakfast are packed, get them in the car, rush towards the school, rush towards work, come back, repeat the same cycle, get groceries, make dinner, check homework, put the kids to bed. It's non-stop work, right? So that pause button is important. Having that pause button allows you to have at least some time to acknowledge your feelings. What are you feeling right now? So recognizing and accepting that you feel guilty is the first step towards dealing with the guilt. Now, the next step is understanding that the guilt that you feel is very, very, very common. It is a normal experience for many parents, especially for parents who are trying to do well, parents who are trying to parent well. And that having that guilt doesn't mean you are doing a bad job as a mother. It does not mean you are inadequate as a mother, right? Just by having that feeling. So that's the first step that you need to do. Just hit the pause button so that at least you have some time to process your feeling. Tool number 2, you want to challenge and reframe negative thoughts. Okay, macam mana kita nak buat benda ni? Okay, dia ada 2 bahagian. How we can challenge and reframe negative thoughts. The first section, what we want to do is we want to question the guilt. Now, what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, why are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling guilty because of your own expectations, or is this expectation external? Is from somebody else? Is it from society, your partner, your family? Is it from somebody else? And most importantly, you want to question whether this expectation is realistic. Or is this just an idealized version of how things should be? I give you an example. A lot of mothers think it is normal that you wake up at 5 and before you reach work at 8:30, you are just non-stop running. That means you have already worked 3.5 hours. Then you park 8:30 maybe, and from 9 till 6, you are again working. And then you repeat this again once you reach home from 7:30 or 8 till 12. And then you have about 5 hours to sleep. And you repeat the cycle every single day. And you accept this as normal. Now, we already know most people need at least 7 hours to sleep. So you are now thinking it is normal for you to be sleep deprived and constantly working. If you put me under such schedule, most probably I'll quit. Not just me. Cuba letak anybody, and let's take this as a job. You kena kerja mula pukul 5 pagi sampai 12 malam. I think tak ada orang nak buat kerja ni. Right? So I think you want to question this. Is this realistic? What you are expecting out of yourself, is it realistic? That's the first part. Now, once you have hopefully come to the understanding that what you're expecting out of yourself is not realistic, you want to reframe those thoughts. So that means you want to shift your perspective from thinking that I'm not enough, I'm missing out on important time. When I'm in the office, maybe my in-laws are taking care, or maybe the maid is taking care of my child. I'm missing out on the quality time that I could spend with my kids. I'm always working. All these thoughts kan dalam kepala you. You want to reframe that. Okay, how do you want to reframe that? You reframe on the positive aspect of the situation. If you don't go to work, what happens to your children's education? Obviously, one person's income is not enough, right? So you are now contributing towards their future. By you going to work, what other benefits does it bring? Does your children get exposed to the world, different cultures, because you bring them to travel because you're working? So focus on the things that are actually the benefit of you going to work, instead of focusing on the negative. Now, why this is important to focus and to like continuously just think about the positive, bukan kita nak ignore the negative, but kita nak consciously, maksudnya kita nak allocate time to think about the positive. Sebab otak kita ni, minda kita ni, dia lebih mudah untuk remember atau untuk ingat dan store dalam minda kita berbanding perkara yang baik. So maksudnya if perkara buruk tu dia boleh remember dalam 1 second, dalam 1 saat, perkara baik kena happen for 12 seconds in order for your mind to remember. That means your brain, or all our brain, remembers negative things 12 times better than positive things. Mothers, this is just how our brains are programmed, which is why for us to allocate time to consciously think about our contribution and the positive things that we are bringing for our children and our family is so important, because our brain is programmed to think only about the negative. Yelah, because it has to think about the negative. That's how it ensured the survival of our species untuk sekian lama kan. But now, if you want to have good mental health, you have to allocate some time to think about the positives and reframe your thoughts in positive thoughts. Now, once you're done with that, early on, you questioned your guilt, right? Tool number 3. What you want to do is you want to set realistic expectations. Now, how can we set realistic expectation? In the beginning of today's episode, I've talked about setting your own KPIs, right? So we are going to explore that further. We're going to define your success. Okay, are you considered a failure if you don't do breakfast every day? How do you know if that is a failure or success? Simple. Ask your kids. If you don't do breakfast, for them, are you a failure as a mother? I know this is a very difficult question for many Asian mothers to ask them, because you feel like, oh my God, I have not been raised that way. I don't think I can ask my kids that. But ask, because in business, that's the first thing I teach my students, right? You want to know what the customer wants. I'm not saying your kids are your customers, but they are the beneficiaries, right, of your efforts. So ask them, what is it that really matters to you? Does it matter that I make you breakfast every single day? Does it matter to you that I come back home and make dinner every single day? Does it matter to you that I do A, B, C, D, E, F, G? What really, truly matters to you? And then you have a good idea of what is in their mind a good mother is. So then you can define your own success, right? You don't have to burn yourself on both ends for things that maybe some other people don't even value, right? Now, once you have defined it by criteria, okay, these are the activities or these are the tasks that everybody appreciates and everybody wants me to do, then you ask yourself, but do you want to do all of them? Do you have room to do all of them? Is it realistic for you to do all of them? Which are the things you can delegate? Which are the things you can ask help for? Right? And most importantly, katalah diorang bagi tahu you kan, ada 10 benda ni yang dia cakap, oh yeah, I love it, mommy, when you do it, all of these things. 10 tu consider markah penuh lah kan. Tapi, like how I tell my students, you tak payah dapat markah penuh untuk dapat A. 80 lebih pun dah markah A. Right? So maybe what we want to do is we want to aim for good enough. Maybe we want to aim for A first, now. Maybe we aim for A star later on when, you know, we feel much better about ourselves, or maybe situation at work has changed. You know, it's vice versa. You can always change situation at home or situation at work. That's your choice. But doing that from a place of power and a place of consciousness where you know what you're doing, instead of being pushed around by society, by work, by your children, you want to take your time to make this decision in a conscious manner. So you want to accept good enough parenting. Maybe this month or this quarter, you are B minus, mom. It's still okay, right? B minus is still good, right? So your children, you need to understand, they require love, support, and stability. They don't require perfection from you. And you will be more than surprised to know that children are very understanding. If you can explain it to them, this is how I feel, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I cannot do everything. Explain it to them. They will be more than understanding to listen. At least you have to start, right? You cannot always just think your kids are very young and they don't understand. Now, kalau benda ni susah lah nak faham kan, you rasa macam, oh my God, if I let go of something, my family's going to crumble, my children are going to become drug addicts, I don't know. You catastrophize. You rasa macam, the world's going to end. I just want to ask you, dekat tempat kerja you, semua orang A-star ke? When you draw the bell curve, kan, when the HR draws the bell curve, does every single employee fall at the extreme end of outstanding performance? Tak, kan? Most people fall dekat mana? Tengah-tengah curve lah. They fall in C, right? But with most employees falling in C, company tu hidup lagi kan? Maju lagi kan? Is still making profit. Still boleh bayar bonus. So, I think we have to accept that being good enough it is truly good enough for our kids to be successful. We don't have to burn ourselves on a stake for our kids to be successful. Best yet, I think some parents burn themselves so much that eventually they become resentful of their children for their own mistakes. Maksudnya, they keep thinking the kids robbed them of their life. The kids didn't give them the opportunity to live a good life because they were constantly sacrificing. One day, the kid is going to turn back and look at you and ask, but I didn't ask for all the sacrifices. So I think that's why you should have that conversation. What really truly matters to them, right? And then decide on what is good enough. That is toolkit number 3. Now let's look at tool number 4. And I think most women struggle with this a lot, and we have to talk about it, right? Seeking and accepting help. Let me state this out loud so that you accept this, or so that you hear it from someone at least. You are not a failure for accepting help as a mother, right? Just like your kids are not a failure for accepting help from you, just like your spouse is not a failure because they are accepting help from you, in the same manner, you are not a failure if you accept help from them. Nobody asked you to be a self-sacrificing person. You just have to be a mother. Okay, and how do we do this effectively? Step 1 is to build a support network. Now, you either connect with friends, right? Some mothers I know do this. They connect with people in their residential area, dekat taman sama-sama kan. Maybe hari ni mak tu pergi jemput anak, the next day the other mother goes. So maybe like that, maybe family, brothers, sisters, people who can help you, parent groups, who understand your situation, and of course values kena match lah kan. Kita tak nak have people who are not aligned with us, right? That's true. You want to choose people who are aligned with you. And next one, where I think where most of the struggle happens, is to delegate and share responsibility. So you want to share both parenting duties and household duties with your partner. I understand in most Asian households, it's very difficult to do this because it was not done in the previous generation. Men were never taught that they're supposed to share household responsibilities. So, biasalah, benda macam ni, kalau orang tak tahu, kita ajar. Have that open dialogue. How do you share your duties out? Maybe you want to start like this, just like at work. List down everything that you're doing. Maybe list down everything your partner is doing, and then see, does this make sense? Is there a way that we can make this more balanced? Now, before we move on to the next tool here, I think it's very important again for me to stress that there is no harm, there is no shame in accepting help. Because I know many mothers, especially those who come to us and in my friend circle, where they can afford to get a help. They can afford to get a maid. But the reason why they don't want to get help or a maid is because they feel like, oh my God, that means I'm a failure as a mother. Like my mom did not have a help. My mom did not have a maid. She was able to pull this through on her own. So why should I? Right? Okay. I think it's very important first to recognize that you and your mother are two different individuals, right? What was her strength might not be yours. What is your weakness might not have been hers. So we can only judge based on what is your need and ability at the moment. The second thing that most women, I think, forget when they make this statement is, orang dulu tak apa, tak pergi kerja, nombor satu. Kalau pergi kerja pun tak ada masalah. Sebab adik rumah sebelah, mak rumah belakang, abang taman sebelah. There was a very strong network. And most of us now live in condos where we are very much estranged from the rest of the society. We are on our own. Nuclear families are very difficult to raise children. So accept help in any form they may come, even help that you have to pay for. All right. Okay, having said that, let's move on to tool number 5, which is practicing self-compassion and self-care. Okay, this is a hard one, right? Because maybe this is because of Asian parenting. I noticed that a lot of mothers are not very kind to themselves. So when they speak to their children, they're like, oh, it's okay, you know, you forgot about Mother's Day. I know you had a very big exam. It's okay, I understand. Or it's okay, you forgot to call me because I know you have a busy day at work. But if they forget to call on somebody's birthday, in their mind, it's like, oh my God, how can I do this? I'm such a bad mother. I can't even remember my own child's birthday. I'm so useless. I don't deserve this. And the thought continues, right? Negative self-talk continues. So I think the first step that a lot of mothers can take to be kind to themselves is talk to yourself exactly like how you would talk to your child, especially your child who's a toddler, right? If the child pours water, you won't say stuff like, mana mata dekat lutut ke? Kenapa bodoh sangat? You won't say that. You would say, oh, it's okay, you know, you made mistake, you made a boo-boo, you know, let's go get the cloth. Maybe you want to wipe, let mommy show you how you can wipe it, right? So practice that same kindness to yourself. You deserve it. You deserve it because it's going to be a lot harder to be kind to others if you're not kind to yourself, right? And then you want to start by prioritizing self-care. This I repeat so often to my own employees. I repeat it to the mothers and I repeat it to my friends, right? Because once you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of others, right? You cannot pour from an empty cup. You need to make sure your cup is either overflowing or full in order to take care of others. So in order to do this effectively, what you want to do is you just want to schedule time in your calendar to do regular self-care. Okay, self-care, I know Instagram says that you need to go and do your hair, do your nails, go out shopping, whatever it is. But I have this friend, right? Her self-care routine is just that once a week, she gets her husband to take care of the children and she goes to the mall to drink coffee. And that's all she does. She just drinks coffee looking at people alone. She doesn't check her phone. She doesn't read a book. She just people watches, just let her mind wander. Take some time to be herself. That's it. So self-care is, there's a variety of self-care that you can do. And please don't try to include your kids in it if it's possible. Because a lot of mothers feel like, oh, let me try to go hiking or let me try to go to the waterfall. Okay, let's make it a picnic, right? Self-care means you have time to be yourself, right? It might involve your children. For some mothers, maybe you want to do that, that you might find that most healing. You might find that that is actually your me time where you send your kids to classes and then you get 1 hour while they are done, while they're doing their classes. It might be like that for you, but you have time, you need time to reconnect with yourself and replenish what is lost, what you're giving, right? What you're giving has to be replenished. So that comes with self-compassion and self-care. And the next one we're going to look at is tool number 6, which is focusing on quality time. Okay, this one I have heard so much from my students, right? They always say things like, oh, for my parents, you know, last time when I used to teach in international schools, this is what I've heard from my ex-students, right? They say things like, oh, my parents actually care more about work than us. They don't have time for us. Because then I ask them, how do you know that your parents are paying for these fees? Like they obviously care so much about you in order to spend so much on your education. Can then they're like, oh no, I can never talk to my parents because they're always so busy. They have meetings even during dinner. They're constantly checking on their phone. I'm like, so what happens when you talk to your parents? Or even when I talk to my parents, they're either replying on WhatsApp or they're checking email or sometimes they're scrolling on their phone. This is something you don't want to do. If you have already limited time with your kids, what you want to do is you want to make those time count. You want to make the most out of your time with your children. Either you engage in activities that really foster connection or activities that foster enjoyment. You want to make sure that the time you spend together is meaningful. So that means if you ask your kid, how's your day like? You don't want to be doing this. Oh, betul ke? Ya ke? While just the kid is eventually going to know that they are not your priority at the moment. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have strong boundaries when it comes to work and family. So you do want to allocate some time where you are not doing anything else while talking to your kids. That they know they have your time at that given time at least, right? So you want to focus on quality time. After that, you want to do number 7. You want to do tool 7, which is communicate openly. Okay, what is this tool about? So women generally, they need to talk about their feelings. Not just women, everybody needs to talk about their feelings, but I think men are not taught to how to talk about their feelings, right? So men just pent up and just pretend that everything is okay. But women, I think, because of their nature and because of the upbringing, they are taught to talk about their feelings. So I encourage you to talk about the feeling, either guilt or frustration or stress or anxiety, whatever that you feel, with your partner or a friend or a therapist. Okay, here is my public service announcement. If you are going to speak to your partner and your partner is a male, and when you are discussing this problem or you want to share this problem, and all you want is for your partner to hear, all you want is your husband to hear without giving a solution, I suggest you start by saying this: I don't want a solution, I just want you to hear. Ni penting because kepala lelaki or otak lelaki, dia punya programming lain. Programming dia, oh, you tell me this problem, okay, let me hear, okay, this is the solution, let's solve this, let's do this. It's very action oriented. Or else I think for most women, what they want, most wives, what they want is just to get it out there. Because they already know the solution, but they just want to vent, they just want to get it out of the system before they take their action. Now, if your husband doesn't get it until now, I suggest you share this piece of content with them so they get it, right? But make sure you have clear communication with your spouse. You make sure you make it clear to them that I'm not looking for a solution. And if you are, tell them that you're looking for a solution, because men's mind work differently, right? Now, the next one that you want to communicate openly is that you want to communicate openly to your children. You, depending on their age, you want to discuss with them and make sure they understand your choices and the values that you have and the importance that you're placing on your career and your family. You want them to understand this. So you don't want them to feel like you're abandoning them for work, or you don't want them to feel like, oh, mommy's always going to be available, the job is like a side gig, right? You want them to truly understand what is what and why are you making these decisions. So that is very important. Like I said, children can understand really well if we give them the chance. So give them a chance, have the conversation. If you don't know how to have the conversation, learn on how to give the conversation. There's many resources available online on how to do the conversation well, right? Okay, now, tool 8, adjust your perspective. Now, you want to have this discussion, right? When you want to have this discussion, before you have the discussion even, you want to recognize the benefits. What are the positives that come out of your career, right? What is the financial stability, the personal fulfillment, the holidays, the clothes, the better food? What is it that your career is providing for the family? You want to be very clear about the benefits. And how does this benefits overall contribute to your family's well-being? So you want to recognize these benefits, you want to communicate it to your kids, and you want to, the second part of this is when I say adjust your perspective, what you want to do is you also want to model resilience and independence. Okay, when you go to work and also balance what is needed in a family, you are modeling the values that are important for you. You are telling your children by action that these are the things that I value. That I value independence, I value learning, I value resilience, and most importantly, I value the importance of pursuing personal goals, even when it's so difficult, even when it is tough. I am not the kind of woman who gives up, who just chooses either or. I choose to do my best in both to the best of my abilities. So when you do this, this is what the children learn. They learn that, oh, just because I have a family, it does not mean I have to give up on my career. There is a way to make both work. I just have to have an open dialogue with myself to know which one to focus on when, right? So that's what I mean by adjusting your perspective. Lastly, tool number 9, what you want to do is you want to set boundaries and you want to prioritize. So this one falls back to yang phone scrolling tadi itulah. So you want to make sure there is a boundary between work and family, and that the time that you are present at home, or the time that you're saying, okay, this is solid, this time is solid only for family, then make sure no matter how much of an emergency it is at work or whatever it is, you try not to get involved during that time with work. You just focus on family time, right? And you prioritize what's important. Remember, I told you, prioritizing is a very difficult skill. You want to have this skill because even if your kids say there are 10 important things, mommy, that I equally value, you've got to use Pareto principle. You've got to figure out what is it that they value the most and execute on that. Maybe those that are not important, we can get them, we can get those things later. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying. Now, those are the 9 toolkits to make sure you are mentally strong, resilient, and healthy, right? Now, once you have achieved that, or at least you have gotten started with that and made significant progress, and then you are more than ready to guide your child towards academic success. And that's what we're going to look at in the next section of the webinar, right after this very short break.
Want to find an online school, you just don't simply look at the grades. Now, what is the point of having good grades if they're just memorizing? They don't even know how to speak. They don't even know when they go out. And they go out, they don't know how to speak, to voice out their opinion. Because now, when you go for an interview, me as a business owner, when I go for an interview, when I interview my staff, okay, I put aside the grade, even though they are 4 flat, 4.0, whatever, okay, I ask them critical question. The new grads, whatever, critical question. Okay, how do you solve this question? I gave them scenario. How do you solve? We want to induce critical thinking. Something not just out of the box. We have no box. You have to think without box at all. Now it is not there in the normal education system now.
All right, welcome back to the final section of today's webinar. And in this section, we're going to be talking about how to guide your child towards academic success. Okay, the first step is to cultivate a growth mindset. Okay, how is this different from what most parents do, right? So most parents will say, oh, I want you to get an A. I want you to get 90 marks. I want you to score in this particular range. This is what we want. So in his book, James Clear, called Atomic Habits, right? In this book, he mentioned something. There's nothing that differentiates an Olympian that gets a gold medal with the Olympian that loses, right? What is that non-differentiating factor? All of them came to the Olympics in order to win. Ada tak orang yang pergi Olympic, tak apalah aku nak kalah sebenarnya. Aku tak nak dapat pinggan emas. Tak ada kan? Everybody had the same goal. That means every kid who is in a class most of the time wants to get an A. So setting that goal is not important, but cultivating that growth mindset is important. So in this regard, I would like to share a story, right? So this person called Carol Dweck, she wrote a book on mindset. In her research, they took inner city kids and they divided them into 2 groups. So these kids both received maths help, maths tuition, let's say, make it easy. One kid was told that, oh, they're really smart and they should be able to do it, and they were just given help with mathematics. They were just taught everything. The other group of kids were also taught mathematics, but they were told that their brain is like plastic. They can continuously learn. It's a process of getting better. It can continuously adapt and evolve. And the kids who were told that they can continuously adapt and get better perform so much significantly better than the kids who just received the maths help. Okay, so what did they do differently? Every time that they marked the paper for the group that were told that their brains can adapt and grow, they were just told, oh, you're not there yet. Just a simple difference. You're not there yet. Yet. When they added this word, suddenly the kids got like, okay, I'm going to get there. But maybe not today, but I am going to get there. Versus when we give our kids phrases like, oh, you're so smart, you're such a genius, you're intelligent. What happens is they believe that to be 100% true, and they shy away from challenges, right? So what we want to do when we are dealing with our children, we want to praise them for their effort, their perseverance, and their strategy, rather than an innate intelligence or talent. We're not going to say like, oh, you memang pandai gila lah, you memang genius, you know, you really have a talent, you really have an eye for this. We're not going to say stuff like that. We're going to praise what is within their control, which is their effort, their perseverance, and their strategy. So this is an important message for all mothers, right? Studying is very much like going to the gym. That means if you continuously load up higher weights and you continuously take care of your diet and food and you rest properly, there is no way that you're not going to be growing. There's going to be no way that you don't hit whatever goal that you have for your gym journey, right? Similarly, if you teach your child to continuously persevere, keep on trying, keep on thinking on how they can improve, they are going to get there. But if we make the journey about just getting an A, and if they don't get an A, they're a failure, then it's going to be a lot more difficult. So the first tool that you have is cultivating a growth mindset. Number two, what you want to do is you want to communicate openly and curiously with educators. Okay, I added this word curiously because a lot of the parents, when they come and ask teachers what to do or educators what to do, they just want to know like, oh, if the teacher says A, B, C, D, E, they just accept it. I want you to start questioning what the teacher says. Why is it so? And most importantly, parents, please listen to me very carefully. If your teachers say things to you like, oh, dia okay, dia cuma kena study lebih sikit, dia cuma kena fokus lebih sikit, dia okay je, cuma kena ada extra effort lah. Please run the other way, right? What kind of feedback is that? How are you supposed to work with that? What is study more? Study apa lebih sikit? Which topic? What subsection under the topic? What skill set is missing under the topic, right? So when we do this at Pass Excel, we make sure that we pinpoint, we sit down with the kid and we figure out what is the reason. Is it time management? Is it this kid has exam anxiety? Is it the kid didn't understand the topic well, which should not have happened in the first place, right? So we try to drill down and understand and tell the parent the specific feedback that they can work on so that they can see a better result in the next monthly test itself, right? It's like saying, bila orang tak tahu pandai masak kan, orang tak pandai masak, orang suruh you makan, ada je bagi tahu dia, oh, okay lah, okay. Cuma you keep trying, you'll get better. No. You tell them tak cukup gula ke, tak cukup garam ke, tak cukup pedas ke, tak cukup minyak ke. You tell them, right, what it is missing. So the teachers are supposed to tell you what is the missing ingredient for your child's success. And it is not just more effort. All right. Now, the next tool that you have is you want to engage in active learning strategies. So you must understand that your human mind is able to transfer skill set from one area to another, right? So taking that into consideration, when you're going out with your children, you want to ask them questions that will engage their curiosity. You want to foster an environment dekat rumah where you are always asking encouraging questions or you're finding out answers together. It can be It can be things on like, why is the price of egg going up? What is the current prime minister's policies? Maybe you want to talk about why is a certain celebrity acting a certain way? What are they doing to get attention? How is this beneficial for their business? You want to ask them this question, encourage them to think, because this ability to actively question and actively think is now getting ready to get transferred to their academics as well. So this is what you can do. You can engage them in active learning strategies. Now, here is tool number 4. You want to encourage them in self-assessment, meaning you want to give them the gift of awareness. You nak dia realize apa kelebihan dan apa kekurangan dia. How do you do this? Simple, step paling simple. You give them practice questions, right, to do. After they have done the practice questions, you don't mark for them lah. You give them the marking scheme just on that practice question. You let them mark. Then you ask them, why did they get these things wrong? They got how many wrong? Why did they get this wrong? What is their thought process on why they got it wrong? So of course, kids in the beginning, they're not very good at assessing. So you got to help them. If they say like, oh no, I just didn't study enough. But then this doesn't make sense. You spent a lot of hours studying. So why did you get this question wrong? What is the skill set that is missing? What is the knowledge that you want to repeat and retain? How can you improve your retention? So kita nak tanya soalan macam ni where they can eventually understand, okay, this is the skill set that I need to repair first. Right? So you want to make them independent. You nak dia jadi self-reliant on themselves to solve the problem and not only on mommy's help. Okay? Now, having done that, you want to move to tool number 5. Okay, tool number 5 ni bagi saya sangat penting lah. You want to establish a routine and environment conducive to learning. So dia ada 2 bahagian. First kita nak talk about routine, lepas tu kita nak talk about environment. So let's talk about routine. When it comes to routine, you want to set a consistent schedule for your children, because even if they're teenagers, even if they look like young adults, they still need supervision. They still need a consistent schedule and some sort of monitoring and supervision from you. So you want to develop this schedule together. Okay, what do you want to do now? What do you want to do next? Okay, pukul berapa dinner? Family time, maybe it's not negotiable. Dinner time is this. Semua orang kena makan. Right? And this setting up a consistent schedule ni is very important, because it also means what time do you get to use your devices? What time do you get to access the internet? When do you get to access the internet for studies, and when do you get to access the internet for social media? You want to have all this in the schedule. Then when we talk about study space, right? So study space, orang akan cakap, oh, give them a quiet, organized place to study. Memang tak boleh ada distractions. Yes, okay, all that is acceptable. But it is not limited to just that. It also means maybe sometimes you want to plug out the Wi-Fi router. Maybe you want to make sure you take away the phone during study time. Maybe they only get phone at certain hours in a day. Now, this is very important, because we've had experience of parents coming to us and saying that, cikgu, boleh tak bagi kerja rumah lebih sikit, sebab saya tengok anak saya ni malam-malam main game. So, bagi pandangan saya lah, saya rasa macam, okay, you nak saya bagi kerja rumah sampai anak you tak boleh tidur malam ke? Atau you nak saya bagi kerja rumah sampai dia kena buat sampai tengah malam ke? Tak kan? The easiest way is for you to just unplug the router. I rasa kebanyakan parents sekarang, because they don't want to parent, they want to pass on the responsibility to the cikgu pula. So you can't do this. So part of establishing the routine and setting an environment is also being a responsible parent and setting very strong boundaries on all these things so that your kids can actually focus on study. All right? Now, let's look at the next tool that you have in your perusal, which is fostering independence and responsibility. So how do we do this? We actually teach kids time management. We teach them, okay, let's look at this together. Ya, abang, how many hours do you have? You bangun pukul berapa? Pergi tidur pukul berapa? Pukul berapa you balik daripada sekolah? How many hours do you have? And you have like 7 days in a week. When do we slot what? Right? We teach them about how to set goals. We teach them how to break tasks into manageable steps, and then we need continuous monitoring. Now, understandably, most parents can't do this. It is very challenging because you already have so many deadlines and milestones to meet at work, and then you have to manage household, and managing this as well might be challenging, especially when you have multiple children. So here at Pass Excel, we know that most parents can't do this, which is why here what we do is we do those things as seminars for students who are enrolled here. We have time management seminars. we have goal setting seminars, and then we have continuous monitoring whether the students are on that way to meet their goals. Are they managing their time properly? So all this is part of the program, because we know it is very difficult for mothers to meet all these requirements, which is why I say sometimes some help, some support network has to be a paid one. And that's where Pass Excel comes in, right? The next tool that you have is to embrace failures as learning opportunities. And this is the last tool that I want to give to you. I think the first thing that we need to do tadi tu kan, the growth mindset. So once you dah ada the growth mindset, what you want to do is you want to normalize setbacks and you want to normalize failure, because failure is an opportunity to learn. And the one thing that I always tell my students, right? You tahu tak, bila you were born, you didn't even know macam mana nak kentut. Babies don't know how to fart, right? Any mom knows that you have to usap the tummy, you have to put them at the back, either burp so that they can fart, because when they have gas, they cannot sleep. So I used to tell my students this, you didn't know how to fart, you didn't know how to go to the toilet, you didn't know how to walk. You used to fall down every 10 steps or every 3 steps. But look at you now, such a champion, walking like nobody's business. So just like that algebra that is so hard today is going to be super easy if you keep trying, because the baby didn't take 3 steps and then fall down and say, it's okay, maybe walking is not for me, the adults can do it. No, human beings are resilient. They keep trying. So I tell my students, you have to keep trying. So what we want to do is we want to normalize that setback. We want to tell children it's okay. Memang you learn through failure pun. Failure is not part of learning. Failure is learning. That's how most of us learn, right? It's a natural part of learning and growth. And so what matters is how they take that failure and what they learn and how do they progress from that. So we want to normalize failures and setbacks as much as possible, right? Now, the next part in embracing failure is we want to then work on problem solving, right? We want to look at how can we problem solve together, parent and child. So when they are faced with academic challenges, we want to immediately flip that. Okay, this is challenging. Let's accept that. So what's your solution? How are you going to overcome this? What's your strategies? I understand that this is frustrating. I understand this is distressing, disappointing to you. Let's take a moment to process that feeling. Okay, now what's the next step that we're going to do? What's your strategy? So we want to focus on these things so that eventually the kids can do this on them by themselves. They don't need mommy to be there to help and guide at every single stage. And the last thing that I want to mention here is allow them to be imperfect. They might not get everything right the first time, but they are learning, and that is okay. Because what we want is we want them to keep trying, keep improving, and keep learning. All right, so that was my final tool on how you can guide your child towards academic success. So together, this has been a very long episode. We've covered so many grounds. I want you to take some time after this episode to really unpack that mom's guilt, see where that guilt is coming from for you. And then I've given you all the steps that you need to take to address that guilt and all the other emotions that come in the emotional toolkit. Lastly, I've also given you the steps that you can take to guide your children towards academic success. Now, we've covered a lot, and I hope this has been a valuable session for you. And what I want to ask from you is that if you have any further question, if you wanted to share something, you wanted to see which part of this episode was valuable, please type in the comment section. And please type away with all your sharings and all your questions in the comment section, and we will definitely get back to them. And see you in the very next episode. Thank you, and bye-bye.